Good morning and welcome to the Welsh Wire on Facebook Live. Today we're at CK & Company in Grand Rapids with President and CEO of CK & Company, Cynthia K.
Hello,
Cynthia,
Sheri.
welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you came to visit us.
Absolutely. It's great to be back here again. We've talked before.
A few times.
Cynthia's been a guest on our podcast, and today we want to talk with her about her company and what she does in terms of video production for talent acquisition. A lot of companies are into using video right now. It's a great attraction and retention tool to use when you're trying to find great talent in West Michigan especially. But first, let's hear a little bit, Cynthia, about your company, exactly what you do and how you got started in the business.
I love to talk about this stuff.
We all love to talk about ourselves, but you've got a great story.
But that's one thing about small business owners. Every small business owner I know loves to talk about their company, and we love to hear the stories of other business owners.
Absolutely.
Too. Well, so my story is kind of a fun one. It's a lot like many of the small business owners. I wanted to be my own boss. Spent 13 years in broadcasting and decided that I really wanted more control over my life. And so I opened a media production and communications consulting firm, and we are 30 years old.
Oh my gosh.
So we have staying power.
I love it.
And over the years, the company has grown, it's changed, a lot of the service offering has changed, but what's really cool is that our first customers are still with us today. So we're delighted about that.
Fantastic. And you started out doing video work right from the very beginning.
Right from the very beginning.
So you're a bit of an expert.
Or you could just say I'm old at it.
I don't know about that. I prefer to say expert
okay,
in the business.
Expert.
Absolutely.
But it's kind of interesting because people go, oh, video is so popular now. Well, honestly, it's always been popular. I just think that now there are conditions going on in the world that have caused it to be more top of mind. We all have our devices, right? And the devices now allow us to view video pretty much anywhere. So, you're at your computer, you've got your iPad, you've got your smartphone. We can look at video anywhere. And I think that's why more and more people are turning to it. That, and quite honestly, people don't like to read. A lot of people don't like to read.
Right. Well, it seems like there's a much more personal connection that can be established with a company, an organization, a person, a job even, that you can communicate through video in a way you can't through printed word or just a photograph. Tell us your thoughts about that.
Well, and it's interesting because I think a lot of people will say, well, it's because we now have how many generations in the workplace, and the younger generations, millennials and that, love video, but I don't know that that's true. I think everyone loves video.
I think you're right.
I really do. And you're right. It's partially because we love stories. And what better way to have a story than to have someone tell you? And you get not just those words, but you get the visual, and you hear the emotion, and you see the joy on people's faces and the excitement about doing something. And I think that comes through in a way that it just doesn't come through in a printed piece.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for tuning in with us today on Facebook Live and the Welsh Wire. We're here with Cynthia K. of CK & Company, and we're talking about talent recruitment, attraction, and strategies that can be helpful when augmented with the use of video. If you like what you're seeing today, please like us on Facebook and be sure to share it with others as well. So, Cynthia, we know that video is increasingly being used as part of a talent attraction strategy. Talent acquisition, there's so many uses along the continuum.
Well, and you see that every day.
All over the place. And the clients that we work with are really looking for unique and novel ways to get at that talent. But it's more, it can be used for more than just attracting on the front end. It can be used for telling the company's story. It can be used for telling an individual employee's story. It can be used for talking about celebrations or monumental milestones, for example, in a company's or a group of individuals' history. With the organization. It can even be used for going down on the shop floor and being folded into, say, a video job description.
Sure.
And I know you've had experience with a lot of those different phases.
Well, and depending upon where a company is in their journey, you're going to use different things. The really cool thing about getting video assets is that they can actually be leveraged then again for other purposes. So
Right.
you may start by collecting employee stories and they may be used to attract talent.
Right.
But you may later use that for historical, maybe you're celebrating an anniversary. So where I think you need to think about this is, and I love to tell people, is you need to really look carefully at having a strategy and choosing the people that you are going to use. And this is something where I think people like to see individuals who look like themselves. So, for example, you don't pick necessarily all of the most seasoned employees. You want a real variety of people. You want some people who have just joined the company. You want people who have been there for a while. You may want people who have made a career out of being with your company. But you want to show a really diverse group of employees. And then I think you want to think about what are the stories that they're going to tell.
Right.
And the stories can be, it doesn't necessarily have to be job related. It could be a story about a volunteer activity that they have, or a hobby that they have, or their family, or how they balance family and work. I think
Those are exciting.
Those are really interesting stories, and there's
Yeah.
lots of different ways that you can put those stories together.
Right. I think people want to connect through video, right? It's a unique connection that they make, and when they can see something that is in themselves when they look at someone else, oh, I do that too, or oh, that's really interesting, or oh, I never knew. You know, graphic designer by day, rock band bass player by night.
By night.
You know, kind of fun things like that. We actually, on our blog that we do, Kazoo Connect, we tell some of those stories for companies too, of some of their employees that do some really unique volunteer things in the Kalamazoo area. And it's those are stories that usually get a lot of attention.
Well, and honestly, those are stories that really get you to make that really personal connection.
They personalize it,
because we're all more than our work.
Right.
We are a compilation of all of the experiences that we have. So telling those stories, and the one that I really love and that we will often do for companies is, I think it's really great when an employee or a team of people even has achieved an honor. Maybe they've won Team of the Year, or maybe they get an industry award, or we were just at the Manufacturing in America, and the Manufacturing Institute honored women, and we told the stories of some of the women who have gone up through the ranks in manufacturing. And it not only is a great honor for the employees in the company, but it's encouraging other people to think about manufacturing as a career. So, I mean, there's multiple uses that you can find for these
Absolutely.
things.
So the more connection points you can really find by carefully selecting the people that represent the organization and the jobs that they do and what they talk about in the video, the more connection points you can establish, I think the more powerful, you're saying, the video can become, and the more longevity, multiple uses.
And I like to tell people, think carefully about who you select, because sometimes we tend to go to the people who are the most outgoing or that we think will be camera friendly, and that's important. They need to be camera friendly. But sometimes the shyer, maybe folks who are a little bit in the background have such wonderful stories to tell. And there are people who will really connect with those people because they are maybe not so extroverted, but have just a really quiet, delightful way of telling a story.
Right. But they round out and complement what your entire organization is about and looks like, and will appeal to someone who says, that individual is just like me.
Exactly.
If I go to work there, if I work with this organization, I'm going to find people that are just like me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes it very appealing. So you have done a lot of work for companies in this space. When someone says, I think I want to use video in talent acquisition, where do I get started? What do I need to think about? I mean, where do you begin? Because there's so many options. How do you start with a client in that process?
For one thing, I think what we say to people is you have to start with a strategy. It cannot be just a one-time thing. If you're going to do this, you need to think about this as a continuous program.
Yeah. Do you help them with that strategy?
Yes,
Can you help them build that? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. And we will help them with a kickoff, and sometimes people will take over the program on their own after that. Sometimes we will assist them, but we really will help them figure out, who to select, how to prepare them to be able to do this. research some of the stories. We actually do the production, but there are some people who may choose to do it on their own. I think that's great if you want to. It depends on the level of production that you're looking for. What I will tell you is that I think some people think it's more expensive than it is, and it's really not, but what you have to do is you have to work the logistics.
Right.
So for example, we might go to a location and we might interview 10 employees in a day and get 10 different stories, and then you might have a strategy for how you release those stories at different times. So you have a real coordinated approach to how you produce it and how you release it. The one thing I will tell you is, if you're going to do a bad job, don't do it at all, because there's nothing worse than bad video. So,
right,
Write
absolutely.
a story.
So let me ask you about that, because I've heard it said too that sometimes the off-the-cuff, hey, man on the street, I use the iPhone and record it.
Can be very effective.
And you agree with that?
Yeah, I think
it's probably not your entire strategy, but it could be used within a strategy.
It could be used within a strategy. I think what I like to tell people is look for opportunities when you have groups of employees together, because then you can bring a professional in because it's a one-time.
Right.
Or if you're going to do it, at the very least, you want to be very careful that you have a camera that's got, a really good quality camera. The audio is usually the issue. Yeah. You need to have a good audio setup to be able to do that. What I worry about is that people will try to overproduce. So if you're going to do it on your own, you have to keep it simple, because then you'll end up with a better product. If you try to do too much, it looks easy. It's not as easy as it looks. So you want to get some advice,
Right.
We've actually gone in and trained companies to have their employees gather their own stories. And someone would say, well, why would you do that? Well, maybe not everyone needs the level of expertise we have. Obviously, we'd love it if they'd use us.
Oh, absolutely.
But we'll help people do that and give them some advice along the way.
Right. We're here with Cynthia K, CK and Company on our Facebook Live today. The Welsh Wire is talking about talent acquisition strategies using video to enhance those. If you like what you're hearing today, please like us on Facebook and share this with your friends too. So Cynthia, we've talked about strategy and getting started, how important that is to lay that foundation. You know how to do that with your clients. You've done that for years. So you lay that out, figure out exactly what it is you want to do.
Absolutely.
Maybe is there a timetable? What comes next after that? And you start to figure out the stories. What comes next?
Well, what I think people need to think about is there are times of the year where things are more beneficial. If there are job fairs, or if they're going out to colleges and universities, or and obviously you can always post them on our site. I mean, we have our employee stories on our site, and we get a lot of people who go, oh, I didn't know, this about that person. So I think one of the strategies is to look at those times of year when you're really knowing you're going into recruitment mode, and to back it up. And we do what we call back timing. If I need to show it in June, I need to be starting several months in advance.
Okay,
of doing
which is
that.
good to know too. Yeah.
And then the other thing that I will tell them is walk before you run. Find a few of them, test that out. Even professionals will do that with you. They'll come in and they'll do 2 or 3, and then you'll release them in stages. So I think that the timing of it is important. The other thing I think that is really critical is that you freshen this up. You don't do a batch of them and then leave them there forever. I think it's really important. People are very interested in new content. So I think you need to be constantly adding new stories and pulling some off.
Yeah, tell me about that. What's the life? I mean, what if you put something out there? What is the life of a video, or does it depend on the content?
Yeah, it really depends on the content, because there are some stories that are what I'm going to call evergreen. Right? They are going to be as true today as they were 6 months or a year ago. There are other stories that I think have a more limited shelf life. Ideally, you want to produce things that would have at least a year's shelf life so that you can go down the road. But then by refreshing them, you get new people, you get new things that are happening in your industry, and I think you want to talk about those things.
Right. Yeah, that's good to know. So you've got that all planned out. You look at the timing of this, what the right time is to do it, and then you talked a little bit about selecting the right people, getting them ready to talk. I mean, is there an art to doing that and helping them prepare, or is it just ready, set, go?
No, I would say there's an art.
Okay.
My employees have heard me say this, and I say this a lot. Anyone can go buy the equipment. That doesn't mean you can produce a really great piece.
Right.
It's not about that. It's about the skill of being able to draw a story out and being able to put people within their comfort zone so they feel comfortable about sharing a story, making people feel really good about the experience.
Yeah.
Because here's what we know. When people feel really good about an experience, then they go tell other people, right? And then those people are more willing to come forward. So I always say start with the ones that seem really excited about it, and then it kind of has that ripple effect, and it will spread out, and then before you know it, people will be coming to you and saying, I'd really love to take part in that.
Yeah.
But I always ask for volunteers first.
Yeah. And I would assume, too, that those people are going to come across as very sincere and genuine and endearing to the listener, the viewer of the video, which is what you want to do, versus someone who's a little robotic and stiff and uncomfortable and wide-eyed and so on and so forth, which doesn't make the connection.
Well,
very
and
well.
honestly, here's another tip for you. If you shoot one and honestly it's not a good representation, I tell people don't be afraid not to use those stories.
Right.
You don't want to put something out that's going to make someone uncomfortable or not be a great representation of your company.
Right.
So,
but you can coach those folks a little bit too. If you do a take and it's not working real well, you can show them what they need to do to loosen up a little bit or have it come across better.
Well, and here's the other thing that I think is important. You want people to be in a setting that they're comfortable with, because usually when you put them in a setting where they're comfortable, they're more likely to open up and tell a story. I am a fan of not having people look directly at a camera.
Okay.
I am a fan of having someone interview them, because then you're looking at that person. You get feedback. It's easier than looking at a camera lens.
Yeah.
So all of those little kind of tips and tricks about how you put these things together and what you do to get people prepared. Often when we're doing sessions with groups of employees, we'll even do a quick phone conference with them and tell people what to expect.
Right.
Because I think there is a fear of cameras. I think there's a fear of looking foolish, or maybe not saying the right thing, even though there is no right thing, it's your experience. So I think all of those things kind of come into play, and I think when done well, it can be a phenomenal recruitment tool. I mean, I have clients who say, someone looked at a video or talked to an employee of ours, and that's what convinced them to come. And we all know how hard it is, right, to find talent.
That's
Unemployment levels are at record lows.
That's right.
Right? So, and smaller companies, I think, have a tougher time because we may not have all the bells and whistles of large companies.
That's right.
So
and
there's
many of them,
the people part of it's really important.
Exactly. And many of them have the idea that, we can't do what the large Fortune 500s can do. This is too expensive. We don't have a vehicle to do that. Maybe we don't know the right person to do that. I'm not sure this is right for us, but you're saying quite the opposite. It might be even more important for small companies to use.
It is more important. And, and one of the things that video will do for you that I think is really critical is that it goes beyond your marketplace. If we're talking about a geographic region, it might be easier to connect, but maybe the people that you want to reach are folks who have moved out of state and are looking to come home. Those people are looking for content. They're looking for companies, and they may not be able to have that one-on-one contact with you. So that video may be the piece that is really important.
Yes.
And here's the other thing I guess I'd share with you. Employee stories don't have to be long. And in fact, they should not be long. They should be short little snippets. And what I love is the strategy of releasing short little bites that you use on social media to pique someone's attention, to get them to go to a site and then look at a whole story.
Oh, that's great. So just a little, like maybe 30 seconds of
10 or 20 seconds.
Even shorter. Okay.
Even
yep.
shorter.
That drags them back to the site and wants them to come in, and it really attracts them to look at more. That's a great idea.
And it's not like you're going to do this all at once. You know, we hear about these stories about videos that were posted and there's millions of views all of a sudden, and you know, it's kind of like that one-hit wonder thing, which is wonderful. But what we're really looking for is building a program, building a presence, having people become aware of your company, understanding your brand, feeling comfortable with it, and that takes some time.
Right.
So if you're in it for the long haul, you want to think about those things.
Right. It's part of what you want to put into your complete talent acquisition strategy, because it is difficult with social media to be in videos too, as part of that, to be able to say my business came from this, my hire came from this. Because especially with talent acquisition right now, your message has to be out in so many different places, in so many different media. When people are hearing your message over and over again, you don't really know at what point they activate to come and take a look at your company. But if you're missing video as a part of your strategy, you're missing something very important in that continuum of a drip of your message, right?
Absolutely. And here's the thing I would encourage people, even though I'm all about video, when you do a video piece, you want a companion print piece. You want to pull some of the clips, you want to write a story about that person, and you want to pull some of the comments out of that video story, put them in the print piece, because people need, it's the old advertising rule. Frequency, frequency, frequency. The more people see things and the more different places they see them, the more open they are to the message. Tell you what I think is really cool is when we've done stories, and then when a potential candidate goes to the company and meets the person that was on the video.
Oh, I love that.
And this is so cool, because then it's like there's that full circle of, wow, you were the person I saw, and now I get to meet you in person and I get to be shown around the company. I mean, there's where you pull the whole circle together. Done right, that's like the perfect experience.
That's the connection, absolutely. And you've had some great experience doing this very work for clients. Share us with us a story about a client maybe that you've worked with that's done this real successfully.
We've had a number of clients that have done this successfully. A lot of them, I'm going to tell you, are larger global firms, but some of them are smaller companies, and some of them are West Michigan based, where we've done feature stories about people. One story that I love, a client of mine, I'm hoping they're going to say it's okay I share this, but one of my favorite clients is Hegarty Insurance up in Traverse City, and you know that is a very specific market. And one of the things that they have, that as I hear employee stories and as I'm working with them on presentation training and that sort of thing, is when I ask people to tell their company story, most of them have said, my friend told me about this company and said, you have to come over here and meet these people. Or my mom knew about it. Or, you know, I met someone from the company. And I mean, I think that face-to-face is like the absolute best thing. When you hear people tell those stories are amazing, because people come and they're so delighted with their workplace. But you can't always have that one-to-one. And that's where the video piece of it, I think, takes that experience and expands it out.
It's like it's your online friend.
It's like your online friend.
That's come and told you the story. In the absence of being face-to-face,
it's one of the best things.
Works really well.
And I think having someone tell their company's story is really important. Because and everyone's story is different. You know, I've had people who've told me the story about how they started in the mailroom and then they became the vice president of sales. And, you know, you hear those stories, or you hear someone else who's been in the same job for many, many years, but the job has grown and expanded, and they just love that they've been able to do more. It's that showing someone what can happen when you work for a company. It's not just saying there's opportunity here. It's you actually see people who have had that opportunity. And there's nothing more powerful than an employee saying, I've been able to grow personally and professionally because this company cared enough about me, because they invested in me, because they let me go work for this nonprofit and take a day of my time to go build houses for Habitat for Humanity, or go to Kids Food Basket and, you know, work to help kids with lunches. I mean, all of those things tell us that's a great company to work for.
That's right. That's right. And today, good folks are hard to find, but good folks are looking for great organizations to join.
Absolutely.
And they always wonder, what's it really like behind the scenes in an organization? And when video can help tell that story, not only of the company, but of the great people that work there, it really helps to make the connection in a unique and powerful way.
Absolutely. So I put together a tip sheet.
Yes, Cynthia did. We will be sharing this with you shortly after our broadcast today. This is a great tip sheet on how to get started in a program like this if you have interest. So if you're watching right now and you want to get that, feel free to message us directly, or it will be available on our Facebook page shortly after our session today. So, Cynthia, if some of our listeners would like to get a hold of you and talk with you more about what you do and learn how they might be able to incorporate video into their talent acquisition strategies, how do they reach you?
The easiest way is just go online, thinkck.com. And actually what I encourage people to do is, you know, go to my About Us page and watch some of our employee stories, because that'll give you a sample of just how you can tell a story, and we have lots of other things that we can share too. But I would encourage people, don't be afraid of video. It is a video world we live in. And you know, you can start in a simple way to tell stories, and then as you get more experienced, you grow into more complicated productions. But don't be afraid of it. It's a great medium.
That's right. Don't wait. Get started.
Don't wait.
The point.
You're already too late.
Thank you so much
Sheri,
for joining us
appreciate
today,
it.
and thanks for being with us on Facebook Live and the Welsh Wire.